Hello, I'm Dirk Campbell, the father of Anna Campbell, which is mostly my job nowadays. As many of you may know, Anna died in March this year in defence of the people of Rojava in northern Syria. I've been asked to say something for the memorial celebration for Andrea Wolf. She was killed in similar circumstances defending the people of North Kurdistan against violent repression by the Turkish state 20 years ago. Andrea was motivated by similar convictions to Anna. She was an activist on the political left. Anna was also. They both made the decision to commit themselves fully to the cause of a people that has been treated with scandalous injustice throughout history. Anna was killed instantly by a Turkish airstrike in Mahmoudiye on the outskirts of Afrin. She did not suffer the same fate as Andrea, who was taken prisoner, tortured, executed, and her body mutilated. Turkey's record on human rights is that of blatant contravention of all civilized norms of behavior, including the Geneva Convention. It has been so for hundreds of years throughout the Ottoman Empire, especially the Armenian genocide over 100 years ago. Yet the West wants to ingratiate Turkey. Why? Because of economic and political interests. Turkey buys Western weapons, helping to keep Western economies afloat. Turkey acts as a bulwark for the West in the geopolitical power game between NATO, Russia, and Iran. In all this, the Kurds are marginalized and ignored, except when they serve the interests of one or another power bloc, such as the war against Daesh in Syria. The Kurdish struggle for self-determination is similar to that of the Palestinians, for whom Rachel Corrie bravely sacrificed her life in March 2003. The Kurds have been forced to take up arms against those who are actively repressing them. Primarily, this means the Turkish state. After the Syrian Kurds' extraordinary bravery in the 4-year war against Daesh, whom they eventually defeated with the help of US and UK air power, they have now been abandoned and left to fend for themselves in a war of survival against their far more powerful foe, Turkey. Turkey's army is equipped with top-level military hardware, tanks, planes, and computer-guided missiles bought from Germany, Britain, and the USA for the sole purpose of eradicating the Kurds. Not only are they attacking Kurds in Turkey, but they invaded Syria in January this year. Erdogan announced this to the world in advance, and the world did nothing to oppose him. The Turkish invasion of Afrin has involved the same inhumane treatment as Kurds regularly suffer in Turkey: torture, execution of prisoners, and mutilation of dead bodies. There is video evidence on the internet for this. When I visited Rojava recently, I was fortunate to meet the family of Barin Kobane, a young YPJ fighter who was killed in the invasion of Afrin and her body mutilated. Barin's father described the people who did this as monsters, but he is not vindictive or vengeful. Even though his religion of upbringing is Islam, he says his religion is tolerance, kindness, and generosity towards others. He and his family are Kurds. I've been around Kurds for 40 years. I have a soft spot for Kurds. They are warm-hearted, fun-loving, generous. They are emotionally available. They are true to their word. They do what they say they will do. Andrea and Anna embrace this culture, along with it, the Kurdish attitude to death. I have struggled with their apparent willingness to sacrifice their lives in what to the rest of the world must seem like a futile endeavour. So many hundreds of thousands have died, and the situation of the Kurds is still the same. What I've come to see from my own recent visit to Rojava and talking to the people there is that death is not terrible when you are held the way they are held. When you examine your own fear of death closely, you see that it is really the fear that you won't be held. I thought that the emphasis on shaheeds, that means martyrs, naming yourself after one of them, modelling yourself on them, and so on, was like a cult of death. But actually, it's not so. You could say that Christianity, with its emphasis on the crucifixion and martyred saints, is a cult of death. But Christians will tell you that no, it's a celebration of life. The same with the Kurds in their saying, Shahid Namirin, martyrs never die. The Kurds live in the moment, not in the future. If their house is bombed flat, they rebuild it next day. If their city is bombed flat, they all start to rebuild it as soon as possible. Despite the recent past and the constant looming presence of possible invasion, attack, expulsion, and death, there is no depression, anxiety, fear, or sense of futility. Their life is precious, they love it, and they live it to the full. And they give their lives for their love of it, as I know my daughter did. Many people say to me, how wonderful that Anna was willing to sacrifice her life for what she believed in. I say, dying for what you believe in is not a recommendation. Jihadists and suicide bombers do the same. The question is the cause itself morally justifiable? Was Anna's decision to risk her life for it a morally justifiable one? For Kurds who fight, their identity is non-negotiable, and risking their lives is part of that. For us, in the West, we would prefer negotiation to conflict. But it is not so long ago that Europe was engulfed in conflicts which happened because negotiation failed. And some people you can't negotiate with anyway. This is the position the Kurds find themselves in, particularly the PKK in Turkey. The situation with the Syrian Kurds is rather different. They live alongside a number of other ethnic groups, mainly Arabs, but also Turkmens, Syriacs, and Armenians. It is these groups that have joined together to form the regional protection units, the YPG, YPJ, which in turn form part of the Syrian Democratic Forces. So they are in a strong position to negotiate with Assad once he has gained overall control. Unfortunately, I don't hold out much hope for Rojava as an autonomous area within Syria for the simple reason that Assad has proved himself to be a cruel and unjust man in the treatment of his own citizens. Like Erdogan, he will regard the idea of Kurdish self-determination as a threat to his own authority. And they will be forced back into a powerless minority, marginalized and discriminated against by majority Arab Syria. It is only if the Kurds gain international recognition as an autonomous region within Syria, the way they have in Iraq, that Rojava has any chance of survival. The political project called Rojava, with its emphasis on female equality, ethnic inclusivity, and respect for the earth, holds out the only hope for lasting peace in the region. If Rojava fails, there will be no possible end to the ethnic tensions that have been tearing the Middle East apart for thousands of years. If Rojava succeeds, its principles may be tried in other receptive areas in the Middle East, and their peaceful revolution may spread. It is my task now to bring the plight of Rojava to the attention of the world. I'm in conversation with the British Foreign Office. I will be addressing members of the European Parliament on November the 7th. I am making a documentary film with the BBC about Anna's story that will be broadcast in March 2019. If Rojava survives despite insuperable odds and gains permanent international recognition, then there is hope for the Kurds and for the Middle East. And the sacrifice of those who died for the cause, including Andrea Wolf and Anna Campbell, will not have been in vain.